Happy Tuesday! Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700. It is rivalry week, and my voice is already dying. I haven't even been in the stadium screaming about anything yet. We got a fun show lined up for you. Gordy Chiesa is going to stop by in half an hour. Austin Collie, one of the legends of this BYU-Utah Holy War rivalry. Maybe not your favorite one if you're a Ute fan, but a legend of the rivalry nonetheless. I can't believe that just happened. I was listening to Spence all day yesterday, cautioning everyone to be careful with how they say rivalry, because when you get to rivalry week, you could say rivalry week.
Dude, I always had the struggle of saying that.
And I was like, that's not going to happen to me. Rivalries are fun to talk about. Austin Collie, Jeff Schwartz is going to stop by. John Kuhn as well, covers Utah for the Associated Press. Also, John Kuhn, author, published author. Like, this man churns out books in addition to all of his writing covering the Utes. He is a writer through and through. We won't spend a lot of time on his fiction writing, but I, as someone who's dabbled in that, in 15 years, I put out 2 books. He puts out one like every 9 months. The guy's an absolute machine. That's not even his day job. Anyway, it is the Holy War week. It is rivalry week. And despite my better judgment, I am getting more and more excited about what this could potentially mean for the University of Utah. And yes, while acknowledging that this could also potentially be something huge for BYU, as they feel like as a program, not just in 2024, BYU feels like as a program, they are on the cusp of something really significant. We've seen the influx of interest and investment on the BYU basketball side. We had a meeting this morning at the station. We were talking about some of the other media outlets, some of the print and web outlets that have a lot of content across all sports here in the state of Utah. And BYU basketball is drawing more interest right now than Jazz basketball. BYU football right now is drawing more interest than Jazz basketball. Utah football still is. The hockey club is starting to steal a little bit of that NBA attention, but college hoops are back at the front of mind in Provo. And if football can make good on this 8-0 start, I think you're potentially perched right on the edge of BYU getting back into the conversation that Utah football has been in for a decade. You as a Utah fan might not want to hear that, but I promise you it is a good thing if that happens. Having this be a more competitive rivalry consistently is a good thing for the state of Utah. Having Utah and BYU consistently as ranked teams in the top 25, constantly going back and forth for Big 12 championships, the way they did for Mountain West Conference championships, is good for all of us if it gets to that point. And I have been, I think, even on this 4-game slide for Utah, I've been pretty clear in my expectation that this is more of an anomaly of a season than a consistent trend. A lot of work has to be done to make sure that that is true, but I believe that work will be done. The countdown to the potential Ute-pocalypse, can we call it that? Zach is producing for us today, by the way. James is deciding that he's too good to produce the show. Alonzo is shout out to Alonzo. I think he's having a little surgical situation on his injured hand. And Zach is on the mic today. Welcome, first of all.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
Oh, Zach, I can't hear you. Strike one, 5-yard penalty on Zach.
Weird.
You open the mic and I can't even hear you. What's going on there?
What about now?
You're going to have James come to the rescue. Little growing pain. All right, here we go.
Hey, this is my first time running this
I can't
board.
hear you now. We'll get to Zach at some point. The countdown to the Ute-pocalypse. It's only a potential Ute-pocalypse. It's the Armageddon of an asteroid hitting this football program. But you've got maybe Brandon Rose, Mekhi Bernard, Brant Keithy, Junior Tafuna. You got a bunch of Bruce Willis's. You got a bunch of roughneck oil drillers who are learning to be astronauts right now, who are going to fly up there. They're going to intercept that thing. They're going to plant the nuke. They're going to blow this thing up before it hits that Utah football program. All right? The Ute-pocalypse, the Ute-mageddon is avoidable, but you only have 5 more to make that a reality. You have 5 more days to continue whatever work you've been doing in this bye week to right the ship. And what I don't want to see, as I extend this Armageddon movie analogy way too far, what I don't want to see is somebody having to sacrifice themselves in order to blow up the asteroid. Bruce Willis shoving Ben Affleck into the escape pod and saying, "You take care of my little girl." We don't want that. No man left behind. But this Utah football team, there are, I will say it until I'm blue in the face. Well, not this week. Blue in the face is bad this week. Redder in the face this week.
I think I fixed it.
Aha! Zach, you did it.
I did it.
All right. Well done. Good job.
Thank you. And I think it's right to call it the Utah apocalypse.
Ute-pocalypse or Ute-mageddon? What are you going with?
Ute-mageddon.
Ute-mageddon?
I think it's a good one.
All right. We're going to go Ute-mageddon. The apocalypse thing is overused, kind of like the gate where, Watergate, Spygate. Yep. It's overused. You got a couple of, and Ute-mageddon is what we're going with. All right. So to avoid Ute-mageddon, you have to blow up the asteroid that is BYU football that is hurtling on a collision course towards Rice-Eccles Stadium, and the folks that are there to do it, there's way too many common threads here between this movie and what this game could be, because have you seen the movie, Zach? You're like 9 years old, so have you seen this movie? It came out probably before you were born.
Which movie?
Armageddon, Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck, Liv Tyler.
That's not really my type of movies, but I'd probably watch it. Ben Affleck.
Are you? It's okay. This makes me feel very old, but it is one of the all-time great, like, summer blockbuster. The writing is terrible. There's so many plot holes, but it's just like a big budget flick, And it's about, I can't believe I have to explain this to you. It's about an asteroid on a collision course with Earth. All right?
Right.
In this case, that is BYU football on a collision course towards Utah football. All right?
Yep.
If this asteroid is allowed to hit Earth, it's Armageddon, hence the name of the film.
Yep,
right?
there you go.
It's the end of the world. And NASA comes up with this harebrained scheme that they got to blow this thing up. All right? So what they're going to do is they're going to fly this advanced shuttle up to the asteroid that's on its way to Earth, and they're going to intercept it. They're going to land a crew on this thing, and they have to drill down into the core of this thing that's like the size of Texas, and they got to blow it up from the inside out. And then, of course, the pieces will scatter, and most of them will burn up in the atmosphere, and the world is saved. Are you following?
Following.
Now, in the movie, instead of training astronauts, who are some of the smartest human beings on Earth, how to drill into an asteroid and plant the nuke, the movie decides it would be much more interesting if they took oil riggers, right, like leathernecks, and train them to be astronauts.
Weird.
So Bruce Willis is the best in the business, all right? He's the no-nonsense, hard-nosed guy, and he's the one that NASA calls. And he's like, all right, I'll do it, but only if that's a bad Bruce Willis. I'm going to stop doing it. It doesn't sound like Bruce Willis. He's like, I'll do it, but you got to let me take my crew with me. And they're like, all right, well, who are these guys? And, of course, they're leathernecks, so they're a bunch of yahoos. They're a bunch of crazy dudes. In this case, that is Utah football. And they have, in the movie, like whatever it is, a month to learn how to become astronauts, to adopt a skill that they do not have. And that's where the analogy falls apart, because Utah football has a bunch of guys that know how to win. They have a bunch of guys who are talented players. But in this case, I think it's Brandon Rose who gets to be Bruce Willis.
Yeah, it's a tough one for sure. especially after this bye week, because we're not going to know who the starting quarterback is until game time decision, right?
Yeah, but of course the team knows.
Yeah,
right?
the team will definitely know.
We could all agree on the fact that when Kyle Whittingham sat down at the press conference and said we have a good plan in place, and a lot of folks jumped on the political train and said it's concepts of a plan. But in any case, they've got a plan in place. But reading between the lines in the subtext, it's either a 2-quarterback system or it's Brandon Rose for a series or a quarter. Let's see if he can get this guy going, or vice versa, whatever it is, right? But in this analogy, maybe it's Isaac Wilson is Bruce Willis and Brandon Rose is the Ben Affleck character, his protege, who also happens to be dating his daughter, which complicates the whole thing. It's crazy, right? I'm sticking with the movie here. Are you following? Do you understand what's going on?
I'm still following.
So one of these guys has got to fly this shuttle up to the asteroid that is BYU football and plant the nuke. And the nuke is, I don't know, is it Mekhi Bernard? Is it Brant Keithy? Is it a deeper understanding by Mike Bajakian of what this team is truly capable of? I think the nuke in this analogy, in the prevention of Ute-mageddon, has to be the Utah offensive line.
100%. And getting that run game going with Micah Bernard is going to be a huge thing.
It's the only thing that can save you from BYU is if you establish the physicality that your team has been known for so long. I only had 30 minutes of live radio yesterday because we had the Kyle Whittingham press conference. We had Utah women's basketball. Shout out to the Lady Utes. Unbelievable performance. We'll get into that a little bit later. What an atmosphere it was as they brought a bunch of elementary school kids into the Huntsman. But the only real weapon that you can deploy against this really well-rounded, high-quality BYU football team that is going to make enough of a difference for you and going to allow you to pull off, and I can't believe I'm saying it, an upset win at home of your rival, because it would be an upset. The line has been hovering between 4 and 5. The only thing that is analogous to that nuclear warhead from the movie Armageddon is the offensive line showing up in a way that they have yet to show up this year. They have to do it. This is the thing, as the countdown is happening, 5 days to figure this out. That's the only thing that's going to save you from the eventual destruction of this momentum, this insane I'm not trying to say this to diminish what BYU has accomplished, but they've been very lucky injury-wise. They're having their moment right now.
Yeah, 100%. And Jake Retzlaff's having a better year this year than he was last year.
He's having a way better year this year.
Yeah.
You know, there's still those gunslinger tendencies. Jake Retzlaff still has some vulnerabilities as a quarterback, because every once in a while he'll make a throw that you're just like, whoa, that should be a pick six. And it hasn't worked out that way in every one of these games. BYU's defense is still winning them the turnover margin, even when he gets a little loose and crazy. But on balance, Jake Retzlaff has been so much better at taking care of the football and just at managing these games and showing what he's truly capable of. There was never a question about whether or not Jake Retzlaff was a talented quarterback. The question was, is he ever going to play within a system, and is he going to protect the football? He answered those questions this year, and BYU's undefeated because of it. It's not far off from what you see with Isaac Wilson, where, wow, that kid's got a big arm. He's also got some athleticism. He can extend plays with his feet. This dude has a lot of capabilities to be a great quarterback, and then the question remains, can he play mistake-free football? Can he play highly disciplined football? Can he play recognition? I need to check out of this play. I need to make sure that I get to this third read type of football. We don't know that yet. And we've been saying all year long it's because he's a freshman. It's not just because he's a freshman now. Kyle Whittingham pointed out that he's got 400 snaps. There's a lot of guys who don't get 400 snaps in their entire careers. There's a lot of juniors that come in and they play, and no one says, oh, well, he's so young. When you're 400 snaps in, you're starting to get a sense of it, right?
Right.
But Retzlaff and Isaac Wilson are similar in that you look at the skills from Retzlaff last year, and you're like, yeah, the dude can play, but the mistakes are so costly. The same thing is, I think, most of our assessment of Isaac Wilson. So is it going to be him? Is it going to be Rose? Big question. But this game, this Holy War game, is more important than it's ever been. It matters more now than it ever has.
I agree. And last time we played them, 2021, we got completely destroyed. Well, not destroyed. It was close, but Charlie Brewer was just not having a good game. Cam Rising wasn't in. Was sticking with Charlie Brewer.
That was, by the way, the worst decision that Utah football coaching staff has made in a decade. And it's something that they kind of got away with because Cam Rising fixed everything.
Yeah, it's like
when you put Cam in, he fixed it, right?
Yep.
And it all worked out in the end and ended up being a conference championship year. The following year ended up being a conference championship year. And so the Charlie Brewer thing ends up as like an unfortunate footnote and nothing more significant than that. Now, this season is potentially a year where you're like, okay, are those quarterback decisions going to haunt Utah? Or is this the week that they make the right decision, that the team gets right, that the offensive line that I just mentioned plays right, and now you don't have to worry about it so much? Because if you lose to BYU, the trust between the fan base and the coaching staff that is already so drastically eroded is dang near gone. But much more importantly, the certainty of players in this program that they're being put in the best position by this coaching staff to win also erodes further. And I don't think I'm overstating things. And I've been doing it for the last 9 days. This is your season in a rivalry game against a very good BYU team. Ute-mageddon. You got to avoid it.
Yep, and especially I've been in Colorado the week after, and then you got UCF at the end of the season. It's going to be really
Colorado, Iowa State, UCF. UCF is the easiest game of those, and I throw up the air quotes when I say easy if you're watching on the YouTube channel. It's not an easy game, especially if you don't defend the run better, which is something, again, Kyle Whittingham alluded to. The physicality of this team has been in some ways diminished, at least on film. Again, you can get back to it, though. Tafuna and Tanuvasa getting healthy this week and having a real rotation along the defensive line, massive. Karene Reed, 2 weeks now further removed from an injury that took him out. Knock on wood that he's 100% healthy and ready to go. Lander Barton, we're still trying to figure out what's going on with that guy, but Karene's presence makes his job a lot easier and I think allows him to play more within himself and hopefully better. The physicality is not a talent-based problem for Utah. You've got the big bodies, you have the size, you have the speed. The physicality is an attitude thing, and Utah needs to find it against BYU, especially at the line of scrimmage, especially with the offensive line, or Ute-mageddon is upon us. And that BYU-colored asteroid smashes into Rice-Eccles Stadium, the fans empty out at halftime, and this season is now, instead of just being like oh man, I can't believe that happened, this season potentially on late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, you could be witnessing like truly the end of an era.
Yeah, and not only offense, but defensive side, special teams too. Like defense needs to shut down this offense. Special teams needs to kind of just, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically give them bad field position, like keep them inside the 20 maybe. Try not to get them past the 30-yard line, their own 30-yard line.
This game is, because it does so often, this game is going to come down to a couple very key plays, and one of those might be on special teams, and it might be a kick that you got to make, right? Execution by everybody. The cliches all apply. Do your 111th, and if your 111th is you're the punter, you're the kicker, you're the long snapper, you're the holder, do your 111th properly and maximize the success that this team could potentially have. In the big picture, though, I don't want to lose sight of where I wanted to go with this. The big picture of what the Holy War represents, not only because this season the dynamic has played out so strangely, but college football has forgotten what it's supposed to be in a lot of cases. College football has become a business that justifies anything in the pursuit of money. College football has scoffed at, laughed at, shirked its responsibility in preserving historic rivalries. This one got put back together half by accident, and we're fortunate for that. But things like the Civil War game up in Oregon, the old school Red River shootout that's still a conference game but doesn't have that middle America vibe that it used to because they're SEC teams now. The Notre Dame USC long-standing all the way back to Ara Parseghian, like one of the great stories in college football every year is that game. And people are kind of trying to build a fence around that, but the next round of conference realignment, unless Notre Dame ends up in the Big Ten, is going to destroy that one. We're so fortunate to have what should be every single year a high-stakes game in conference play at the very least, and in a year like this one, potentially with college football playoff inclusion stakes also added to it, as a rivalry game where families care about it, coworkers care about it, there's a divide, there's some trash talk. Yes, it gets too ugly on social media. Yes, the lowest common denominator of your neighborhood and maybe your friend group and the fringe weirdos that you associate with, maybe those people take it too far. But for the vast majority of fans who engage with this holy war, it's just a great game and the most important game of the year. And that's what it is. And now this year for Utah, it is significantly more important than we thought it was going to be. There was a world coming into the season where Utah, like back in 2021, the expectation was, hey, you know what? BYU, because it's that rivalry game, even though you got it at home, it's kind of one of the tougher tests. We'll see. Utah should be able to finish 10-2 anyway, even if they lose to BYU. Now that's associated with BYU. Those expectations have just been stripped off of Utah and handed to the Cougars, and that's fine. But it's just a different animal. It's a different vibe, and it places much more importance on this game than I expected. And because of the atmosphere and the culture problem at Utah football right now, and because of the trepidation of everyone in this entire football community for Utah, this is, you could make an argument, the most important Holy War game we have seen in 25 years.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess maybe not 25. I think that the 2004 BYU Utah rivalry game, where if you finish undefeated, you're going to bust the BCS, right? That was an unbelievably high stakes game.
It was, and this is also a high stakes game as well for BYU and Utah. And
now again for BYU, there's more wiggle room. That Urban Meyer team, if you lost to BYU, you're not the original BCS busters.
No.
People, the voters, the computers, everyone would have been so punitive in a situation like that. This one, you have more wiggle room because you can still lose to Utah if you're BYU, and you can make the conference championship game, and you can make the college football playoff and all that stuff. Utah's wiggle room is completely gone. It disappeared over the last 4 weeks, and now, as I have said several different ways, several different times, you're looking at a situation where the existential future of this coaching staff, this era of Utah football, this golden age of Power 5 Utah football could come to a ignominious, crashing, halting, disappointing end at Rice-Eccles Stadium on Saturday night, unless you find the crew of Leathernecks to fly up to the asteroid and plant the nuke. And you got 5 days to find it. I want to put out the poll before I take a break and we come back with Gordy Chiesa. I threw this out there last night. There's a lot of votes on it. I'm going to retweet it again right now. The results are kind of what I expected, but I'm always somewhat surprised You have to pick one of these two finishes for Utah football, Zach, all right? One of these two finishes have to happen. You don't get to go 2-2. You can go 3-1, but you lose to BYU, or you can finish these 4 games 1-3, but you beat BYU. What do you think the Utah fans would rather have?
I would say lose to BYU and win your next 3 games. Get bowl eligible.
Right now, 35% of the respondents agree with you, and 65% say, I would rather go 1-3 but beat BYU. And that's what I expected people to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a big expectation, too, because Utah fans do not like BYU, and BYU do not like Utah fans.
If you're sitting here going, you know what? I want to get bowl eligible. I want to make sure that Utah's in a quote-unquote meaningless bowl game. I'll eat another loss to BYU in order to watch that happen. I don't understand you at all. This season and what it was supposed to be is already a wash, but you can redeem it with one thing and one thing only.
Beat BYU.
Beating BYU.
I agree, too.
It's not a great place to be as a program, but it is the place that you are in, and the redemption can only come if you beat BYU. If you beat BYU and then you lose to Colorado, Iowa State, and UCF, and you don't make a bowl game, guess what the conversations look like moving forward? Your neighbors who wear blue and bleed blue say, you guys didn't even make a bowl game, you stink. And you get to say, maybe, but we still beat you, didn't we?
Yeah, that's the upper hand you get. That's the upper hand you get.
It's the upper hand that BYU fans have had since 2021.
No, yeah, I agree.
Because Utah fans get to say, dude, we are a better program than you. We won 2 Pac-12 championships. We've been on the national stage. We finished the season ranked while you guys were floundering. And guess what BYU fans have been able to say since 2021? Yeah, but who won the last one? That's
Exactly.
what a rivalry game is about. So, at Real OC Sports, respond to the poll. 3-1, but you lose to BYU. 1-3, but you beat BYU. What would you rather have? I just retweeted it so that it would go top of your feed if you're following at Real OC Sports. All right, 877-353-0700 is the Dish Pros text line. You can also tell me there if you'd rather go 3-1 but lose to BYU, or 1-3 but beat BYU. And then we'll get back to this conversation here in a little bit. Right now, we're going to take a quick one. We're going to come back with our NBA insider, the resident guru of all things hoop, Gordy Chiesa. Utah Jazz, it actually happened. They found a way to win a basketball game.
About time.
It's ESPN 700.
over the Bulls. And OC, in that game, it's interesting how the Jazz really, they were struggling shooting the whole season, and last night they were lights out, which is really impressive, shooting 53.9 field goal percentage and 45.7 from three, including 16 for 35. So they got the job done.
Yeah, that three-point shooting was awesome. And look, if you would have told me that the Utah Jazz are going to get their first win without Lauri Markkanen on the floor, I would have laughed. I mean, like, what do you mean? Who's going to lead them to a victory if not Lauri Markkanen? But you got huge contributions from Sexton, from Keontae George. You got a big bench contribution from John Collins, who we just played a highlight from. And it works out. I know that the Bulls are not the litmus test of great basketball in the NBA right now, but who impressed you the most with the performance in Lowry's absence?
Really, John Collins last night, how he did it, I call a velocity scorer. He was really possessed on the boards. 28 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, and he was really edgy the whole game. And that's what the Jazz need. You can't be a nice guy. In the NBA, you have to have control of motion, but you've got to play with an edge, and that was impressive. Also, OC, let's not forget, Walker Kessler's having really a fine season. He struggled last year. That was done. This year, he's really played well for the Jazz. He's really been a hard-hat ball retriever as far as going through the boards. Last night, 12 points, 16 rebounds, 3 blocks, and he really, Nikolai Vucevic really struggled the whole game to score against him. Sexton played tremendous last night, 24 points, and then Keontae George. So those two, the backcourt last night for the Jazz, they scored 57 points, but it's when they got them. Jazz scored 40 points on the road in the fourth quarter for the knockout punch over the Bulls.
Look, I know this team doesn't necessarily want to win a bunch of games this year from a big picture standpoint, but every one of these players do. So what's the key in taking these performances, this momentum, and translating it forward, making sure that you can repeat this kind of contribution if you're one of the guys who had a bit of a breakout last night?
Yeah, ball sharing. So the way to do that is the Jazz have 35 assists last night and 48 baskets. So when they share that ball and they play defense with an edge, generally speaking, like all sports, your defense creates your offense. And last night, the Jazz defense was aggressive. I know they scored 26 points, the Bulls did, but generally speaking, the Jazz were the aggressor throughout the game. So that as they go forward, that's what you need. Now, it's only one game, but it's an encouraging sign. Now, the Jazz play against the Bucks on Thursday night in Brew City, meaning Milwaukee, and that they've got to have the exact same intensity level. Now, the Bucks are struggling. So you've got to understand that they're going to come. The Bucks also are going to come alive to try and knock out the Jazz. So the question is always who can control the boards, who can make open jump shots, and generally speaking, who can win the loose ball game.
So you just talked about the fact that it was a better defensive performance for what it was, considering you gave up 126 points. Now, I was never a great basketball player, Gordy, but I played some games where coaches would be like, they'd still be unhappy if you gave up 40 to an opponent and you scored 45. When you're looking at this from a coaching standpoint, 126 points to your opponent is not going to be a sustainable formula most games. So how do you properly acknowledge, like, hey, good job, guys, but also that's still too much?
Well, you emphasize the offensive part of it, how that in that fourth quarter they really were able to move the ball and make open shots. And Keontae George was tremendous. Now, defensively, there's still a lot of things you have to clean up, and that's the ability to ball contain. So last night's game, Kobe White was penetrating against the Jazz, and they've got to do a better job of the Jazz perimeter defenders when they play switch alignment. They've got to be able to ball contain and stop the ball much higher out and play help. Last night, just generally speaking, as the Jazz go forward, Giannis didn't play last night in a hard-fought game in Cleveland where the Bucks lose by 2. So Giannis got a strained abductor, so we're not sure he's going to play on Thursday night against the Jazz. So if Giannis does play, he's the ultimate penetrator. And so you've got to be able to play help-to-help with defense and do a better job of ball containing.
You just mentioned Cleveland, so I got to ask you, how real are the Cavs?
They're real. Yeah, they're real. Is that they have a new coach in Kenny Atkinson, and he's given them that juice as far as believing in them, and that the Cavaliers, what they've done is that their young guys have come through for them tremendously, and so we know about Donovan Mitchell, former Jazz standout, and we know about Darius Garland, but Evan Mobley's been a tremendous help for them, and so is Jared Allen. Both those young guys have come through as far as their bigs, and that's what the biggest challenge for them is that these interior guys play both sides of the ball. Also add to that, Max Strus is a knockdown shooter, hasn't even played yet with a severe right ankle. So they're getting contributions from everybody, from Donovan, from Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Karis LeVert, Isaiah Okoro, and former Jazz man, also George Niang. So they're real. They've done a good job as far as scoring the ball, but also the defense has improved.
Gordy Chiesa is my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking Utah Jazz and all things NBA. Swinging back to the Jazz here for just a second. Victorious for the first time of the season without Lauri Markkanen, who, it seems like this might be an ongoing situation where you try to rest him, get him healthy, but it's always delicate when you're talking about somebody's back. So when do you think that we will see Lauri Markkanen back in the rotation for the Jazz?
Probably not this trip, right? So the Jazz play Thursday in Milwaukee, and Saturday, ironically, they play again against the San Antonio Spurs in the Alamo City. And so so the Jazz play next Tuesday in the first NBA Cup game. There's 4 Cup games that play. It's on every Tuesday, starting this Tuesday on November 12th. So just generally speaking, without being there every single day, usually speaking, you bring a guy back off injury most times, if it's an injury that's, say, back-orientated, hopefully at home. So I think we'll probably see him home against the Suns, which should be a good matchup. Let's not forget also, Jazz didn't play last night without Jordan Clarkson, who's got a left heel plantar fasciitis, which means what? You got a sore heel. And so they sat him out also. And so the Jazz are playing shorthanded, and we know about Taylor Hendricks is out for the season. So it is all part of the NBA. The expression, just like the NFL, Sean, next man up. And you get a chance to play a lot of minutes. That's your job to be ready mentally, physically, and spiritually to know what you're doing, and that you have a chance to perform. And this is how you really try to gain street cred with your teammates.
Gordy, as you are well aware, it is Holy War Week here in Utah, and BYU will come up to Salt Lake City to take on the Utes on Saturday night. One of my favorite rivalries in all of sports, for obvious reasons. In the NBA, what's your favorite rivalry?
Lakers. Jazz Lakers. That's my favorite rivalry. And then in the big picture, it would be the Lakers Celtics.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's so many Laker fans from Southern California that have moved to the Beehive State the last 20 years, especially from SoCal. And so even at that, the Lakers are the benchmark. They won 17 NBA championships. The Celtics have won 18. And so from a Salt Lake City point of view, is that the Lakers really are tremendous. The last 60 years or so, the Lakers have been a tremendous franchise, and the Jazz are trying to always compete against them. So myself personally, is that's the biggest rivalry. Sean, with the Lakers, they have the second most talent I mentioned, 18-17 versus the Celtics. But here's the thing about the Laker basketball. They've competed in 32 NBA Finals series, the most of all time. So, Sean, in Jazz basketball, they've been twice to the Finals back in 1997 and 98. The Lakers been to the NBA Finals 32 times.
So unbelievable.
So that's the standard. Now, the Golden State Warriors, we love those guys too, because the Warriors, Hockey Net loves Stephen Curry. So the Warriors today, they've done a tremendous job also. So Jazz, Lakers, number one in my little tiny universe, and then locally here it would be the Jazz, also the Spurs, because the Spurs also are a tremendous benchmark. 5 NBA championships. Greg Popovich, is ill right now, so he's not coaching, so we're wishing him well, whatever the ailment is. And then Victor Wembanyama, he's special. So in jazz basketball, whether it's yesteryear or in the present tense or the future cast out, that you've got to be able to beat the Lakers if you're in the West here, and also beat the Spurs led by Victor Wembanyama.
All right, before I let you go, Gordy, what's the list today?
All right, list today. Sean, last night I was having some flashbacks. Jazz Bulls, 1997-98, in my little universe. And so what I did was that this morning, a dozen of the greatest ever Chicago Bull players, the greatest ever Chicago Bulls players, a dozen, quickly. People forget that the Bulls started as a expansion team in 1966-67. They're the only team in the history of NBA that as an expansion team made the playoffs. Think about it, Sean, an expansion team making the playoffs as any sport. Now, I get it. At that time, back in 67, there was only 10 NBA franchises. It's hard to believe. 10 back then, so now it's 30. Here we go. Number 12, all-time greatest Bulls players. Bob Boozer averaged 20 points a game for the Bulls back in the late during the 1960 decade. Number 11, defensive standout, Horace Grant, three NBA Finals, tremendous all-star defensive player. Number 10, Reggie Theus, 6 years with the Bulls, averaged 19 points a game. Number 9, his nickname was Stormin' Norman Van Leer, all defensive players many times. He was a playmaker. Number 8 all-time for the Bulls. His nickname was the Jet. Chet Walker, all-star. He was a sweet shooter, averaged 18.2 points per game. Number 7, nicknamed the A-Train. All-star, rebounder in the Basketball Hall of Fame, Artis Gilmore. Number 6, Sean, we all know this guy. Nickname was the Worm. 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, 3 NBA titles with the Bulls, Dennis Rodman. Number 5, nickname Butterbean. 8 years with the Bulls, 3-time All-Star, tremendous baseline shooter. Number 4 all-time, my friend and colleague, his nickname was Mr. Bull. His number 4 jersey's up there in the United Center. 2-time All-Star, numerous All-NBA defensive player, Jerry Sloan. Number 3 all-time ever, Bull, Derrick Rose. Played 8 years with the Bulls. 2011 was the MVP of the league, 3-time All-Star before some devastating injuries cut down some of his ability as far as going even further. The second greatest Bull of all time, Scottie Pippen, top 50 player in NBA history, 6 titles, Scottie Pippen, and number 1, we all know him. He's probably one of the most famous athletes of all time in any sport. 6 NBA titles. You can make a discussion, Sean, the greatest player of all time, you could, with LeBron being a very close second, talking about Michael Jordan. Thus, that's my list for today, the greatest ever 12 Chicago Bulls players.
That's a great list. A lot of greats played there. I have one of those Jerry Sloan number 4 jerseys at my house, man.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
I like that.
Not a game worn, obviously, not from his, but I got one. I was a huge admirer of Sloan, and that's not a lot of people walking around wearing Jerry Sloan jerseys, so it was like a deep cut too. Makes you look cooler, like you know what you're doing watching basketball.
I was back in the 1970s. I mean, again, I know you weren't even born yet. I get it, but for us baby boomers, 1970 was a interesting decade. After the wild 60s, then came the 70s, trying to regroup yourself. And in NBA basketball, that's when they really started to take off in the 70s. Then along came Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, and then the rest is history.
Gordy, it's always great hearing from you. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Enjoy the game on Saturday. I hope your favorite team wins, and more importantly, peace out.
Gordy Chiesa, our resident NBA insider. All right, the hot lunch is coming next. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Jason Kelsey gave us another example of this. Something for you to listen to, especially ahead of Holy War and Rivalry Week. That's coming next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700. Hot lunch coming here on the Sean O'Connell Show. But first, we check in with our friends over at Farmer and Chemist. Doug's stopping by to tell us about all the great products they've got down there in historic Midvale, 7719 South Main Street, or farmerandchemist.com. Doug, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon. Doing great. How are you?
Doing all right. It's rivalry week. The Holy War happening on Saturday night up at Rice-Eccles Stadium, as you are well aware. And with that, for some people, comes a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry. And you've got products to help with that. Not necessarily game-induced anxiety, but the real kind.
Yeah, we're here to help relieve that anxiety and prepare fans post-game as well as pre-game with our Yummy Gummies. Yummy Gummies pack 35 milligrams of CBD, 5 milligrams of CBN, and 4 milligrams of THC, all in a beautiful combination to help relieve stress and help set your mind at ease so that you can get some rest at night.
What if gummies sound like a great option for me, but I don't want any THC?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. We have both THC-free options, so it'd be the same, CBD plus CBN for the sleep and relaxation. 0 THC, guaranteed. So anybody that is drug tested at work or has concerns about THC and its effect, then we've got you covered there as well. And that's Gem Jam with all the same good CBD and CBN.
And I think it's important to point out for folks who are listening who maybe are in that boat and they're like, I want to make sure I know what I'm getting, because there's a lot of CBD products out there on the market that are not regulated. It's not directed by pharmacists. They're not high-quality products. When you get something from Farmer and Chemist, you know exactly what you're putting into your body.
Oh, that's absolutely right. We do all of the process that a normal manufacturer does in the form of pharmaceuticals to sourcing the product that comes in from the farms, making sure that the soil quality is good, that the hemp plant that creates the products that we sell is quality product, and then, of course, the pharmaceutical process here at a state-of-the-art lab in the Salt Lake area to process all of our CBD and put it out to market. So when you buy a Farmer and Chemist CBD product, you're guaranteed to have the best available CBD products from known sources in quantities and potencies that are exactly what we say are on the label.
And still a 20% discount for ESPN 700 listeners, right?
Oh, yeah. Especially, with all the craziness going on, we want to make sure that we're taking care of our ESPN 700 listeners. So come into the store at 7719 South Main Street in Midvale, or go online at farmerandchemist.com. Use ESPN 700 in the promo code or mention it in the store, and you'll get 20% off your order for some great savings.
We'll be giving away a gift card later in topical trivia as well to Farmer and Chemist. Doug, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Doug Burgoyne from Farmer and Chemist, 7719 South Main Street in Old Midvale. Beautiful shop, great products. Time for the hot lunch, and we'll be quick about this because Austin Collie, BYU football legend, is going to join us in about 5 minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show to begin hour number 2. Hot lunch is brought to you by Lemon Shark Poke, which is just east of us here on 300 South in downtown Salt Lake City. They're in the ground floor of the Judge Building. Fresh fruit, locally sourced vegetables, incredible fresh rice every day. Of course, they're recooking that rice. They're poke bowls. If you're not familiar with poke, you like sushi in a bowl, that's what it is. And you can actually go now and you can get the OC bowl, which is, I would say so not so humbly, it is a delicious concoction based on my specific tastes for poke. And I'm a big-time poke fan. So hot lunch brought to you by Lemon Shark Poke. Really quick, Zach, if you walk up to someone and you are filming them with your phone, you've got your iPhone or your Samsung Galaxy or whatever you have, and you're taunting them, and you're extending the phone out, and you say something that's truly offensive to them, what do you expect that they are going to do? What do you think they're actually going to try to do to you?
Probably smash my phone or take my
Probably
phone away.
going to smash your phone, all right? You're already insulting them. You're already attacking something that they care about, and then you're adding to the annoyance and the aggravation by following with the phone and videotaping your reaction, right? This is what happened to Jason Kelsey. A fan would not leave him alone, was harassing him, and dropped a homophobic slur directed at, not at Jason himself, but at his brother. Now, the funny thing about this, it's probably not funny, but the interesting thing about this is I'm willing to bet that if this insult or any other insult was directed at Jason himself, he probably just would have laughed it off.
Oh, 100%. And Jason's that type of guy who's just really chill.
Shut up, you're a loser, I don't care, right? But when you bring someone's family into it, and they're not there to defend themselves, that's when people get crazy. And whoever was doing this, whoever was instigating this, probably knew that. Anyway, Jason Kelsey grabs a phone, and there's video of it on the internet. You can go find it. He just grabs the phone and spikes it like a football, smashes it right there, and just keeps walking. It is the appropriate response when some yahoo is just deliberately trying to annoy you. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. He didn't perpetrate any violence on the individual. He took the phone, he smashed the phone.
And he kept the phone for a bit.
You know what it does? It's probably going to cost you $600 to $1,000 for your own stupidity. That's an appropriate lesson. You didn't get hurt. You didn't lose a tooth. All right, Jason Kelce didn't pick you up and smash you into a ball and throw you in a trash can. All of those things could have happened to you. Instead, you lost the phone that you were shoving in somebody's face.
That's just the respect Jason Kelce has.
This is what you deserve if you're doing this. And I say that because we're heading into a weekend at Rice-Eccles Stadium where one fan base is going to feel some type of way after the game and wanting to taunt the opposing fan base, all right? And if you're doing that, fine. If you're doing it while you film somebody and you get close to them, close enough that they can snatch your phone and smash it, you deserve it, okay?
100%.
Like, you deserve it. I'm fine with you talking a little bit of trash, but you have to accept that there are consequences, and Jason Kelce had to go and issue a public apology for this, even though he did exactly what he should have done.
Yep.
He had to go publicly apologize because he's got all these big brand deals, and he's a broadcaster now and a podcaster now, and you can't upset anybody, and you got to be politically correct. No, Jason, in this hot lunch, we support you offering pretty mild consequences, but very inconvenient consequences to someone who's being a jackass. All right?
I agree. And it's like, you're in Happy Valley for Pete's sake. You know, it's like, why get in some Hall of Fame center's face about a Hall of Fame tight end that's his brother? You know, I don't like the Chiefs because I'm a Broncos fan, but I have a lot of respect for the Kelce brothers. They do a lot of amazing things. Podcasting, having all these guys on, and it's just like, you got to respect the game and also respect the player.
Okay, here's his apology before we go to break and Austin Collie come next. In a heated moment, I chose to greet hate with hate. I just don't think that's a productive thing. I really don't. I don't think that it leads to discourse, and it's the right way to go about things. In that moment, I fell down to a level that I shouldn't have. Thank you for being a good example, Jason Kelce, but this is a language that the idiots who do this stuff can understand. They're not listening to your apology. They're not, oh, you know what? That's thought-provoking. And I should probably not have offered the hate in the first place. If you want somebody to stop being an idiot, you give them a consequence for being an idiot.
Yep.
This is what you do when you're a parent, or at least you try to do it when you're a parent. This is what we always talk about with bullying at school, right? You got to teach them in a language that they understand.
Yep.
And if you bully my kid and my kid punches you in the face, I don't even care if they get suspended. I don't care if they have to go to the principal's office. That's what this is, Jason Kelce.
Defending your family.
You did the right thing, sir.
You did. Well, it's like everything has consequences. Like, we just saw Puka Nacua get ejected on Sunday for punching. That's a consequence.
And it's fine, right?
Yeah.
No, and nobody on Puka's team is just like, oh, I wish he didn't have that edge to him. They're just like, yeah, man, that's just him. And sometimes you got to deal with the consequences.
Yep.
So, Jason Kelce, we love you on this show. Even if you smash people's phones, you don't have to apologize. At least not here. Got to take a break. We'll start hour number 2 with one of the great legends of the Holy War rivalry game. Austin Collie, at one point, was public enemy number 1 for Utah football fans. You get to hear from him next on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700. Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 700. We come back into hour number 2 with a little Aerosmith. Zach, one of the great ballads from any movie soundtrack, this right here. From the movie Armageddon, as we open the show today talking about the potential to avoid what I have dubbed Ute-mageddon. If you lose to BYU on Saturday night and it is the 5th straight loss of your season, it gets real ugly from there. It is catastrophic, much like it would have been had the asteroid from this film hit Earth. Thankfully, Bruce Willis and company planted that nuke and saved us all. My producer is too young to have even seen this movie. My next guest, I'm sure, has seen it and hopefully loves it like I do. One of the all-time greats from BYU's receiving room and one of the icons of this Holy War rivalry on the BYU side, Austin Collie, kind enough to join us on the Sean O'Connell Show today. Austin, welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm great. What a great song.
It is such a great song. I didn't want to come in today feeling like I was a super old man, but Zach, who's producing for me today, never even seen Armageddon the movie. I had to explain the whole plot to him so that my analogy of BYU being the asteroid hurtling towards the Utah football program would even make sense to him. It took way too much time, Austin.
I don't know if the first thing I think about is battling it out on the football field when I hear that song, but I definitely think about the first dance I ever had in 7th grade.
Perfect.
That brings me back.
Well, it's nostalgia one way or another. All right. Let's talk about this BYU football season. I spoke with a lot of BYU folks before the season began, and I was of the opinion that BYU was going to have a better season than the preseason polls indicated. I didn't think it was anything like this. Did you have any sense back in August that this team was capable of an 8-0 start?
No. I mean, to be honest with you, no. I think I had them win it definitely more than what Vegas had, right, which is 4.5, I think, at the beginning of the season. I think I had said 8 wins total. I think we'd be a happy fan base, extremely happy fan base, if we were an 8-win team. But an 8-0 start, I don't think anybody had it, even down in Provo. I don't think anybody had that in mind.
The only person I ran into that had this kind of optimism was Aaron Roderick, who said, man, nobody realizes the weapons that we have. And I think that has played itself out. You've got an incredibly deep running back room. There's some real talent with the wide receivers, and the offensive line has played well even without Pay. And, of course, the quarterback, Jake Retzlaff, has really been a revelation this season. He's eliminated a lot of the mistakes that plagued him last year. What do you like most about his game as you watch these first 8?
Yeah, I think early on, I think A-Rod and the offense realized what Jake could do on his feet, and I think that's really kind of let him play more to his natural ability and not be standing back there and thinking so much, right? I think I think for a young player, specifically at this level, going from JC to big time D1 college football, I think at times sitting in the pocket could get overwhelming, especially when you're trying to be a little bit more analytical and make your reads, right? So I think they realized early on, and what I really love about Jake's game is his ability to extend plays, his ability to create with his legs. And I think that's been a huge benefit to the team and to the offense this season, and has opened up a lot of what they can do in the playbook.
Which of these wide receivers are you most impressed by?
I'm a bit biased, right? Like I've worked with all of them, but specifically spent more time with Chase in the off season. And if you look at Chase's reliability, just his level of consistency, right? You look at his catch rate, his contested catch rate, man, and how many of the catches he has had for first downs. I mean, he's simply a guy that just moves the chains, and simply a guy that Jake can rely on, especially in big time situations, right? Chase has made some of the nicest catches of the year, and in some of the biggest situations. I would like to see him get the ball a little bit more and make him more of a consistent, dominant figure game in and game out. But Darius obviously is a big time playmaker, right? Can extend the field, make plays downfield, and shows up in the key moments. And then guys, the other guys like Parker Kingston has become a great player. JoJo's a great player. The talent in that room, I think there's a lot of guys that you can rely on, and as a quarterback for Jake, I mean that's got to give some sort of confidence to him and a level of comfort that he can throw it to those guys and that they're going to make a play when he needs them to.
I mean, it's pretty deep into a season, so I don't know how much you can make up for lost ground if you have lost ground. But what's the right way for a wide receiver to develop chemistry with the starting quarterback? It seems like that's something you were successful with, obviously at BYU and even at the NFL level. What can a receiver do besides just getting open to make sure that he has that quarterback's trust?
Honestly, that was one of the things I harped on to some of the receivers down there, and especially to Chase, right? The more that you can do with your quarterback, both on and off the field, the better that relationship is going to become more in sync, I guess, right? Like the stronger that relationship is going to be. And there really is like a sixth sense type of level that is developed over time and the things that you're doing and the time spent in the things that you're doing both on and off the field, right? Like, I mean, it wasn't by coincidence. I got really close with Peyton. I got really close with Max. I got really close with John Beck. Those were all guys, man, that I was hanging out with constantly off the field, in a large part to build up that relationship because I knew what would happen on the field, right? Once we became good friends and the chemistry that we would have. So, it sounds kind of corny, but I mean, it is a marriage, right? And it should be treated as such. So, going to the movies, hanging out at the house, going on dates together, whatever it is, man, you should be spending as a receiver. You should be wanting to spend as much time as you can with your quarterback so that one, in a high pressure situation, you're at the forefront of his mind, and ends up, having that level of trust with you that could potentially supersede any other relationship that he has with any other wide receivers in the room, right?
Okay, so outside looking in, it makes perfect sense that would be an easy thing for you to do at BYU. You were one of the best players in the entire conference, and your quarterbacks knew how great you were. And when you're on a college football team, you're always together no matter what. So it makes sense that you're like, you develop a friendship with your quarterback. Was it ever difficult or like surreal maybe when you're trying to do that same thing and have that social relationship with Peyton freaking Manning?
Oh, I mean, to be honest with you, not really. I mean, there were times where we'd be hanging out. You're kind of having a little bit of a outer body thought of like, wow, I can't believe I'm hanging out with Peyton, right? But then quickly thereafter, he just becomes another guy, another captain on the team that you kind of look up to, and he demanded so much. He set such a high standard, right? Like his level of preparation, right? Like I saw that. I wanted to implement the same thing into the way that I prepared for games. And typically when you have the same type of personality and the same approach to a game, you're naturally going to gravitate towards each other. And as a receiver, I knew I wasn't a guy, especially in the NFL, that could just show up and to the games and just, do my thing and then, head back home and not put in the extra work, right? Like I knew, route running, being a dependable receiver for my quarterback was always going to be my niche. So that came down to, running concise routes, being at the spot that they're going to expect you to. And the only way that I was going to be able to understand that was to be able to kind of get inside my QB's head. And I think naturally the relationship just happens organically, right? Because you share that same love of the game, that same level of interest. And, that's what happened with Max and I. It's what happened with Peyton and I. I think he realized from day one that I wanted to be great. I wanted to reach the level of expectation that he had for me, and wanted to be a guy that was going to stick around the league for a long time. So naturally, he kind of took a liking to that, and we began to hang out more and more and prepare for the games together, et cetera.
Austin Collie is my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's Holy War Week. BYU comes up to Rice-Eccles Stadium for a late kickoff on Saturday night. These two teams, as all of you know, are in very different spots right now in this 2024 season. BYU, the last undefeated team in the Big 12 Conference at 8-0. Utah has lost 4 in a row. From the BYU perspective, from the football fan perspective, Austin, what do you think has gone wrong with Utah?
I mean, it comes down to having a young quarterback, right? Like, I think Isaac Wilson is a phenomenal quarterback, but I don't think people realize how difficult it is to go from high school and then transition to a Power 5 conference team. Especially with Utah, right? Like, I think there's a lot of pressure in that position, no matter what college you're going to. Now, especially where the Utah team has had to rely heavily on the offense throughout the entire season, because I think that their defense isn't necessarily as competitive as everybody thought it was going to be. So, I think that's what's bailed Utah out over the last decade, right? It's just how dang good their defense was. And when your defense is that good, you tend to be able to, I guess, not have to pay for turning the ball over as much, right? Because you can rely on the defense. But the offense, I think, is in Utah is right now a work in progress. I think in a couple of years, I don't think we're having this conversation. I think that Utah is a national contender, to be honest with you. As a BYU fan, I hate seeing that Isaac's getting all these reps because he's only getting better, right? And I get it. As a Utah fan, you have all these high expectations. You have all this, all these preseason projections of maybe winning the national title or at least being in the college football playoff, and it hasn't turned out that way. But in my mind, I don't think Utah's ever taken the time to really develop a quarterback from his freshman year to his senior year, and this is the first time that they're doing it. And I think they're, good on them, because if you want to win college football games, you can't put a Band-Aid in at quarterback, right? Like, and I think, Isaac Wilson, like I said, he's a top talent, but everyone, as a true freshman coming in and having to kind of carry that burden of the projections and what the expectation is of that team right away, especially when you didn't anticipate having to come in and play right away. That's a hard mountain to climb, man. But I'm very bullish on Utah's future.
All right, I want to talk about the rivalry game itself and the dynamic that exists between these two schools, these two fan bases, these two teams. Kyle Whittingham played his college football at BYU. Kalani Sitake and Jay Hill and Aaron Roderick and a bunch of guys were coaches or even players at the University of Utah. So I called on Monday. I said, it's not just a battle of brothers. It's a battle of twin brothers in a lot of ways. And look, you've been a huge part of not only the rivalry when you were a player, but kind of rivalry lore. Do you still love this game as a fan the way that I love this game as a fan? Because I'm sure over the years you've had plenty of people chirp at you over it and things like that. So is it still fun as we head into the biggest weekend in college football in the state?
Honestly, this is the funnest week of football for me. Like, this is what college football is all about. And the only thing that I would like to change is that it's played on rivalry week, end of November, right? Like, that could only make it better than being on the schedule and what we are in this week, right? Like, I love the hate, right? That spews through the valley just because of this game, right? Like, I love. I forget the player that had something to say about BYU this week and then went on later to apologize. I'm like, dude, don't apologize, man. Like, that's what fuels the fire, and that's what college football is all about. Like, these are the types of weeks that separate, in my opinion, that make college football better than the NFL, right? Are these rivalries, because there's just so much passion, there's so much loyalty, there's so much background and backstory that goes into these games. I mean, Kalani and Witt. Kalani having coached there before, Witt having played at BYU before, the fact that, there's just two teams geographically that are this close, and you have, the majority of the fan base is separated by 1 point of the mountain, man. I think it's everything that you want in a football game. And, for the past few years that we haven't had it, it hasn't been as fun, right? Like, I've got two business partners in my office right now. I'm probably the only BYU fan in here. And, we've been going back and forth for the last 2 months, but that's what it's all about.
Did you enjoy the villain role that you ended up taking for Utah fans at least? Was that something that you learned to love, or was there ever a time where you're just like, man, I'm sick of hearing from these people?
Oh no, I love it. I absolutely love it. Like I love, somebody's got to be the villain. I'd be lying to you if I told you it didn't help me play better, knowing that I was the villain, right? Like that was definitely something that I wore on my shoulder, and helped me take my game to the next level whenever I played Utah. Like it was something that I absolutely love, and I love getting harassed now, even now, right? I love Utah fans, bringing up the Magic Happens and how much they hated that, and like that's what makes this game great. Is there's just so much feelings and investment into the outcome of this game, and I know a lot of fans, man, that are going to be discouraged for the next year until we play again, right? No matter what the outcome of the season is for each team at the end of the year. This game holds a lot of weight to how people are going to feel for the rest of the year, no matter if they make it to college football playoff or if they win the Big 12. Like this is the in-season Super Bowl, I guess.
So what's your prediction? How do you think it actually plays out Saturday night?
Oh, I think we're going to dog walk Utah.
Damn it. I set you up. I figured you were going to say that, but you know what sucks about it is that it feels like a possibility even for a lot of Utah fans because of the trend that has happened. But yeah. I make other people and probably myself feel better by saying there's been a lot of years where on one side of the rivalry or another, one team was having a great season, the other one not so much. One team was crazy loaded with talent, the other one not so much. And it always comes down, most of the time, it comes down to being a one-score game. But I hope it's at least that this year.
No, I know you needed a soundbite to throw out there to the social media channels, so I gave it to you. But I in all honesty, dude, this game, it doesn't matter. You're exactly right. It doesn't matter who's dominating that year, how much talent is on either team. I think there's just so much juice in this game that it's always going to come down to the wire, man. Like it's just there's too much on the line. One team's playing for a playoff or for an undefeated season, and the other is struggling. It doesn't matter. Like this game is always going to be close. There's always going to be a battle.
You just said that you got a couple business partners, and it sounds like it's more of a Ute business than a Coug business. So people who listen to this show will probably want to support it. What are you doing with your life these days?
Yeah, so I co-own an insurance brokerage called Naylor Insurance Group just up here in South Jordan, Utah, and it is heavily Ute run. So we will. I'm working on getting more BYU people in here, so I have some people on my side of the table. But yeah, just selling commercial and personal lines of insurance. I know a lot of people are being kind of dragged through the mud right now in terms of rate hikes. So yeah, we've been able to find some savings for a lot of people that have chosen to reevaluate their insurance, whether it's for their business or whether it's for their own personal line. So yeah, please, NaylorInsuranceGroup.com. Please visit and throw us an inquiry. We'll make sure to take care of you.
And you'll be supporting Utes, even though Austin Collie is also there. So
absolutely. Heavily Ute-run business right now.
Appreciate your time. Enjoy. You're going to be up at Rice Eccles? Or are you watching this one on TV?
No, I'll be down doing the BYU Sports Nation stuff.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I forgot that you actually have to work on game days, and some of us just get to go pretend like we're working. So that's Austin Collie.
Work.
Yeah, not a real job, but you have one of those too. So thank you for your time, sir.
All right, brother. I appreciate you.
That's Austin Collie, legendary BYU wide receiver, and look, he was. Maybe still is in the mind of a lot of Utah fans, like the villain of the BYU-Utah rivalry. And he embraces that role. I appreciate that he embraces that role.
It's such a great role to have, honestly.
If you go back to from 2007 to 2000, probably 15, and you asked any Utah fan, what BYU fan do you or what BYU player do you hate the most? What BYU player do you want to see lose? It was probably Austin Collie.
Probably.
The Magic Happens quote was one of the all-time greats. And there's so many good ones on both sides. They're great quotes. Maybe we'll compile those, and we'll just we'll do that on the show tomorrow. We'll bust out all the great quotes from the game. Ron McBride had some good ones. Morgan Scalley, Alex Smith, Max Hall, Austin Collie, of course. Tom Hackett, my former co-host right here in this studio. He had a great one down at the Vegas Bowl when they played. There's been some unbelievable moments in this rivalry, and I hope we get some more on Saturday night at Rice Eccles.
I really hope so, too. And it's like my ex is blowing up with Morgan Scalley videos from like when he was still a player. It's funny.
Dude, Morgan was a monster in the BYU game.
Was he?
He's just, he's a great player.
Yeah, he was.
All right. Before we take a break, I want to remind you, as you're looking to support Ute-owned businesses, Advanced Window Products, the mayor of Sac Lake City, Nate Orchard, and Jake Weber, co-owners of that business, and they've been in business for a long time. They bought this thing. They took it over. They've taken it to a new level. Same level of performance, same level of reliability that you probably knew 20 years ago if you were a follower of Advanced Windows, if you were a customer of Advanced Windows, but now even better. The sales team is right here in Salt Lake City. The installation team is right here in Salt Lake City. The warranty is serviced right here in Salt Lake City. Anything that happens with Advanced Windows right here in town. And I say that every time I talk about them because it's so, so important. I've been through the rigmarole of replacing windows, and I've been through the rigmarole of dealing with companies that have a separate entity to sell and have a separate entity to install and a separate entity to manufacture. And if anything goes wrong, good luck getting all three of those things to line up and take care of your problem. Not the case when you've got Advanced Windows. It is a one-stop shop, and they take great care of our listeners. $2,500 off 10 windows or more during the football season. Give them a call right now. 801-850-9100. Tell them OC and ESPN 700 sent you. That's advancedwindows.com as well. All right, John Kuhn, Utah insider for AP. That's the Associated Press. He covers both BYU and Utah. He's going to join us to talk about this. The greatest game every year that we get to see it. The Holy War coming. John Kuhn next on ESPN 700. By the way, both fan bases would try and say that and continue to try and say that. I've always been a fan of it. I've always been an advocate to play it every single year. And it seems like now that they're Big 12 conference opponents, at least for now, we will get it every single year. Do you think we ever get it moved back to the traditional spot of end of the season rivalry week?
I think the reason they put it at this spot in November is to try and get a spotlight on it. The Big 12 wanted, their plan anyway was to have it kind of just have national focus, where it's not competing with Auburn, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, or some of the other, more prominent rivalries nationally. So I would anticipate that it kind of sticks where it's at for the near future. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it does have the spotlight on it. It kind of has the week to itself, so to speak.
Yeah, if Utah had performed up to expectations and BYU had been off to this kind of a start, I mean, this would be a college game day type situation right now because it is one of the most significant games on the landscape from a rivalry standpoint, certainly. All right, so let's talk about the game itself. What is this one going to come down to? I mean, we've been speculating about the quarterback situation for Utah. BYU's in this luxurious position where they've got their guy. They've got some depth at important positions. What does this game come down to? How does it really play out?
It really comes down to disruptive plays on defense. I mean, if you look at what BYU's been doing this season against Big 12 opponents, they're averaging 37.6 points a game, which leads the league in that category. But their total yardage against Big 12 opponents is less than 400 per game. And what it's coming down to is they're getting those takeaways. They're getting those turnovers on defense. I mean, they've had 18 takeaways this year. They've had 14 interceptions. Both of those lead the league. And they have an ability to really get pressure on quarterbacks, something that their defense didn't do before Jay Hill got there. And they're able to dial up their interceptions right when they need them at critical junctures in each game. And Utah needs to do something similar with BYU. They need to try and get pressure on Jake Retzlaff. They need to, contain LJ Martin, Cleveland Potty, not let them get off for 20, 30-yard runs on them, which they're both capable of doing. And I think if Utah can get in, Retzlaff's head a little bit and have it be a low-scoring game into the third, fourth quarter, I think that's where they have a chance of pulling the upset and kind of spoiling BYU's plans to get to that Big 12 title game.
John Kuhn, AP writer, covering Utah and BYU, my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. All right, I've seen you at the media availability. We all go in with the same number one question coming out of a bye week, a second bye week of the season. Cam Rising is not an option. Isaac Wilson has been inconsistent. Brandon Rose, we only saw a teeny bit of, and the results were mixed. Who do you think takes the first snap and plays this game as the starter when Utah hosts BYU in the Holy War?
I know there's been some talk about, Brandon Rose maybe getting his first start this weekend. And obviously Kyle's kind of keeping it close to the vest. He's not going to let anybody know who's going to start on Saturday. But I think at this point, just based on experience, you have to go with Isaac Wilson. Going up against this kind of defense is not really where you want Rose to make his debut. But I think the leash will be short for Wilson. I think if he gets out there and has an unproductive series or two, you may see Brandon Rose in there sooner rather than later, just so that Utah doesn't get into a situation where they're, behind the 8 ball, down 1 or 2 touchdowns. But I thoroughly expect, just given the fact that he has more experience against Big 12 defenses and even as a true freshman, that Isaac Wilson will get the nod on Saturday.
It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And obviously, whoever is taking those snaps needs support from the folks around him. Offensive line needs to play better. Got to get the run game going. Mekhi Bernard has been awesome this year. And I think he's been awesome with not the best blocking up front, although it's been adequate. He's been awesome being asked to carry a load and then sometimes passed over and not given enough touches in a game. It's been inconsistent. It's been wild. What do you think the issues with the normally reliable running game at Utah are?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. It's just inconsistency from the offensive line. Listen, Mekhi Bernard is very capable. I mean, he's had several 100-yard games on the ground this year. We know he can be the bell cow that can power this offense. But you're having too many situations with the offensive line where it's, a third and short, like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, should be automatic to get a first down with a back like Bernard, and they're not getting first downs. They're being forced into fourth down situations. They're being forced to punt, forced to go for it. And there just has to be some consistency on that third down. And there has to be consistency on the first down so they're not getting into continual third down situations. And it really does start with blocking. It starts with them creating the holes and seams that, Mekhi can take advantage of. I mean, because when he gets to that second level, he's got the breakaway speed to really make a difference and to really turn a game in Utah's favor.
All right, I'm going to put you in an unfair position right now and ask you a very big picture question that there's no way to have a definitive answer to. Does the outcome of this game change significantly the Utah coaching plan moving forward, whether it's with the offensive coordinator position, whether it's with Kyle Whittingham deciding to retire or to stay? Does this game play a big part in those decisions moving forward?
I think it can play a role, but I think that what happens during the course of the entire month will actually decide that, because they still have 3 games after this one. And I mean, hypothetically, were they to lose BYU on Saturday, but then they find a way to win the next 3, then it has a different feel to it. It's okay, they figured things out. They salvaged the season. They're getting to the bowl game. Let's see where we can kind of make changes in the off season and build on that. But I do think if they end up not making a bowl game, if they end up going 5-7, 4-8, that you will see some fundamental changes on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, to me, that's a clear signal. Well, and even with the 4-game losing streak this year, it's a clear signal that the offense needs to be modernized, updated a little bit to kind of account for what defenses are able to do now in 2024 that, maybe they weren't able to do 5-10 years ago against the same schemes and same attack.
John Kuhn for another minute or two here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Obviously, we've been talking about the Utah side of this because we're the home of the Utes, but look, BYU has an opportunity to do the things that we all thought Utah would be having an opportunity to do. They very well could make a Big 12 championship. Even if they trip up in 2 of the last 4 games, they could make a college football playoff. And if they do, as a conference champion, they would get that first-round bye. So, when you look at what BYU has accomplished this year and the health of the team, the way that they're trending with that defense and those takeaways that you already cited, is this a BYU team that can really compete not only in the Big 12 but in the postseason?
I think they're set up to compete well in the postseason. I mean, it obviously comes down to who they'd match up with, but if you're able to get one of those 4 byes, you're in a favorable position already because you get an extra week of preparation, or 2 of preparation while the other teams are playing. But I like BYU's chances just because they've shown against quality opponents that they can hold an opposing offense in check. I mean, you look at what SMU's doing in the ACC right now. When BYU played them week 2, they held SMU to 5 field goals. And their ACC opponents can barely hold SMU under 50 points. And so, I mean, that just kind of speaks to the level of toughness that defense has. And that's really what you need to succeed in the postseason. I mean, I know people probably get tired of hearing the cliche, defense wins championships, but it's a cliche for a reason. You're only going to go as far as your defense can carry you. And that really has been kind of the difference maker for BYU this year versus last year, because that defense is getting those takeaways. It's creating the short fields for the offense. It's making it so that if, Jake Retzlaff does have an errant throw here or there, that it's not going to kill BYU, that they can get them out of the situation. And I think there's also kind of a hunger within that program to prove, hey, we belong at the Power 4 level. We want to show that we belong. And so they're kind of driven each game to really keep proving themselves, even in games where they've been the favorite. They want to kind of still embrace that underdog role and say, hey, we've got something to prove to the world. And I think you'll see that going forward Saturday and through the rest of November. Just that drive to try and get there to Arlington and play for the Big 12 title and wrap up a college football playoff spot.
What's your prediction? How do you think the game plays out?
I think it'll be low-scoring, defensive slugfest, one-score game, and I think the Utah fans aren't going to like this, but I think BYU will win a tight one.
That is one of the many possibilities of how this game plays out. And, in another year, a moral victory of playing a tight game and having a good game might be regarded differently, but that would be maybe even more devastating to play close and to end up losing. We will find out in 4 more sleeps. John Kuhn will be there. Before I let you go, I, in person, have expressed my admiration for your ability to churn out the incredible fiction products and writing your own books and stuff. Where can people find them?
So my novels are available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, other major booksellers worldwide. They're in ebook, paperback, back, and hardcover formats. And if you want to get them directly from me, you can go to samacpress.com. And that's my publishing imprint.
How's that spelled?
And you can just buy them directly there. And
wait, what was that? What was the publisher name again?
It's Samac Press.
Okay.
SAMAK.
Samac Press. Cool. All right. Well, like I said, I think it's impressive. I think it's incredible because you're doing that while you're balancing a day job and family work and all that stuff. So appreciate your time today, and I'll see you up there on Saturday night.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on.
John Kuhn, Associated Press writer covering both Utah and BYU. One of the great writers here we have working the sports beats in Salt Lake City. All right. Yesterday, Utah basketball got off to a start on both the men's and the women's side. We have some sound from that. It was an unbelievable daytime performance from Coach Lynn Roberts' squad on the women's side. So make sure you stick around for that. And make sure that you remember that Big 12 coverage in the noon hour is brought to you by Mountainland Supply. Visit them at mountainlandsupply.com. Go to one of their physical locations, new showroom as well. I'm telling you, if you have a home renovation project, a little remodel, whatever, Mountainland is the spot. mountainlandsupply.com. Sean O'Connell Show continues on ESPN 700.
the fact that she just couldn't miss in that game. Reese Ross is open for a corner three. Perfect rotation on that basketball, and she'll stick it. 98-40.
You heard the highlight there from the Utah Sports Radio Network right here on ESPN 700. That was Utah women's basketball. Got off to a great start, 105-52, doubled up and then some on the Southern Utah T-Birds. So very, very impressive performance by Lynn Roberts' squad in the first outing. Take it all with a grain of salt, as Coach told us the other day. You know, it's November, and there's a long season ahead, but it was good to get Neepkins back, and Johnson looked awesome. And I wanted that sound to be there because there was an interesting dynamic in this game where you heard the screaming from the fans. Those were elementary school kids that they bust in to watch this game. This is now the solution to be found for every possible sporting contest that may have low attendance.
Yeah, and I like how they're including little kids who enjoy, like some enjoy basketball, some enjoy football, enjoy soccer, you know.
It's so easy to get little kids enthused about something. Like if you bust a bunch of little kids in and just said, hey, here's a seat, here's a mini bag of M&Ms like you get on your trick-or-treating. All we want you to do is anytime you see the team in red do something good, just go nuts. You got the loudest stadium in the business, and it's going to be that shrill screaming that only young children can do. That's awesome. And, yes, getting the kids involved and exposing them to sports young, it's all great. So I just thought that was really neat. I didn't know it was going to happen. I didn't hear about the initiative as to why it was going on. But then when you're listening to the game and you're hearing Tyson Ewing calls and all of a sudden just like 10,000 little tiny voices screaming, I can only picture my own children jumping up and down and watching. And, it's just great. It's awesome. So,
yep, I agree. And I produced this game yesterday, and, yeah, just a bunch of screaming kids. And during breaks, the crowd was getting hyped from the PA, so
that's so good.
Yeah, it's really good.
I'm gonna campaign for this. Like, I call fights for the PFL. Anytime we have an arena where the tickets aren't selling out, I'm just gonna go campaign to the bosses, be like, hear me out, all right? Elementary school kids.
There you go.
I know the fights usually end about 1 a.m., but it doesn't matter. Let them stay up past their bedtime, give them a little caffeine, and just tell them who they're cheering for. They'll love it. That's what I'm looking for from now on. I want little kids spicing up the atmosphere at every one of these games with their enthusiasm because that energy is infectious. So shout out to University of Utah women's basketball for hosting a bunch of the young folks at their home opener, which they won in very convincing fashion. Later on, and you could hear it right here on ESPN 700 as well, the men got rolling. And it took a little bit of time for the Runnin' Utes to get moving against Alcorn State, like a really, really slow start to this game, actually. But then they broke out. I guess it was after the media timeout is what the article says. I didn't put that in my mind when I was listening to the game, but that's really when it did happen. So, yeah.
Second half, they really got it going, too, especially the Madsen brothers.
19 first-half points for Gabe Manson. He finished with 27. And Utah shot 50% from three and 56% from the field. Now, I know Alcorn is far from being the best team they're going to face. But if you can stay even close to that hot shooting, you can move the ball like they move the ball, if you can get those correct shot selection moments and put up percentages like this, you're going to surprise some people this year.
No, 100%. And even with the injuries to Zach Keller and the other center, I can't remember the name off the top of my head right now, but once those guys come back, you're not going to have to play small ball through 3 or 4 guards. It's going to be more helpful to have those 2 big guys back as well because they were not playing yesterday. They're still injured, so they went more of a small ball group. Mira Little had a good game. Astame had a good game. All of those guys had a good game.
It's going to be fun to watch this team. Again, there's something – it's not dissimilar from what we've seen with BYU football. I mean, now the secret's out, and BYU football is getting everyone's best shot. But early in the year, nobody had high expectations, and so every good thing you saw was like, oh, wow. It's kind of a surprise. I think we're going to get those moments with Utah basketball as well. So looking forward to these seasons, both men's and women's side, as they progress. Before we take a break, we come back with Jeff Schwartz. I want to remind you it's time to help the Utah homeless. Donate unwrapped gifts at Cole West in Centerville or Utah First Credit Union right now, all the way through November 30th. Candy Cane Corner benefits families at the Road Home and Volunteers of America. You can also visit ESPN700sports.com for more details. This Candy Cane Corner drive made possible with support from Utah First Credit Union and Cole West. All right, Jeff Schwartz stops by. The Ducks are still number one, and we got some NFL discussions to have, too, as the Chiefs remain undefeated. The Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's number one sports talk, ESPN 700. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. Hour number 3 begins on a Tuesday with our guy Jeff Schwartz, former Oregon Duck, longtime NFL offensive lineman, degenerate gambler, my good friend. Jeff, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
I am good. Big day in this country because Oregon will be ranked number 1 in the cultural playoff tonight when it comes out. So I just want to let everyone know that it's an important day
it's a big day for the country.
It's an important day for the country. I just wrote down, by the way, how many bets I have in the election. Never more than 5 people voting at a time, and like half the people are in my neighborhood that I know. So it's awesome. It's like a little friendly voting center.
Awesome. Love to hear. All right, now let's get into this discussion about the college football season as it has unfolded. The unbeatens are getting narrowed down, and your Oregon Ducks are still top of the table there. This team looks like they're ready to go all the way, or at least they're capable of competing at that highest level. Are you getting out in front of this like national championship expectation now for Oregon?
No, because we've watched this before. But I think that this is the best team we've ever had in program history. I don't think there's any doubt about that. We have just a very talented team. Think about, we lost our best wide receiver in the second play against Michigan. It didn't phase our offense at all. Gabriel had our offense had nearly 500 yards on the ground. 500 yards total. It hasn't phased us. We lost a pass rusher earlier this season. Didn't phase the defense at all. Now, obviously, having him back is great. Our right guard got hurt. Now, that's a problem. I think no one has O-line depth. So that will be a concern that we'll see the next couple of weeks without him. But it's not a schedule that you have to worry about, I think, not having your right guard there. So it's a very talented team. They're well coached. They beat teams by a lot. They kind of just suffocate teams, Sean. So it doesn't mean you win a championship. It's so much harder now. You got to win 3 or 4 games. If you don't beat Ohio State here in early December, you got to win 4 playoff games, man. It's hard to do. You might have to play Boise again in the first playoff game, which is I think every Oregon fan would like to skip playing Boise again. So it's hard to do. But I think if you look at who has a chance to win, not a lot of teams. It's about depth and injuries, and Georgia, Oregon, Texas, Ohio State sort of have the depth, I think, to withstand a long playoff push.
The only thing that bothered me about this past weekend in college football was that Penn State lost, which eliminates the possibility of Oregon being the number 1 team in the country but not even being able to play in the Big Ten championship. That was a possibility if Penn State, Indiana, and Oregon all won out, and Penn State, they lost. So no longer a possibility. Bums me out.
Yeah, It does, but the Indiana for the playoff. I mean, Indiana for the Big Ten championship game is still alive, which will be wild, and so is Colorado. By the way, like they had the best week of anyone last week and didn't even play. They're alive for the Big 12 championship game, which is I think we never saw coming. More importantly, Sean, what's happening this weekend? It'd be 8:15 Mountain Time because the Mountain Time, you know how I feel about that.
I love that you went Mountain Time because usually you just go all the way to Eastern, which nobody out here can even get their minds around. Yeah.
Utah is getting 3.5 points. If that number feels small, I'm not going to lie. It feels a little small. It feels a little trappy. Both teams off a bye.
Yeah. Started at 5, by the way, and has moved down to 3.5.
It actually started, believe it or not, the number this summer for this game, you want to guess what it was?
Probably 9 points for Utah or something.
Utah favored by 17.
17?
Yeah.
That's depressing that it's gone so far from that. That's terrible.
I mean, it opened up August 28th at 17 points for Utah.
Wow. All right.
So obviously that's the college football season. How are we feeling, buddy? I need give me a download on Utah because I love rivalry games taking the home dog, but I got to make sure I'm doing it. I'm making the right wager here.
Look, everybody's question comes down to the same thing that you've been wringing your hands over all season long, and that is what is the quarterback situation? Isaac Wilson, the true freshman, a little banged up in addition to being a true freshman, got benched, and Brandon Rose came in, and he made some nice throws, but there was also a couple of drops, and then he threw an interception to really kind of seal the defeat. So it was like the spark you were looking for wasn't obviously there, and those are your options. I mean, I guess I should be fair to Luke Batari, who had one good performance for Utah last year, but he doesn't seem to be a big part of the conversation. Sam Heward is out for the season. Cam Rising is out for the season. So it's going to be one of these two guys, and one of them's got 400 snaps under his belt this year, and the other one has like 42 snaps total in his Utah football career. So all the optimism about, hey, this coaching staff knows what they're doing. They can get things right, which, by the way, is hard to find because the fan base has just been like they just hate things right now. All the optimism kind of runs up against this obstacle of, well, either way, you've got an inexperienced quarterback against a very good BYU defense.
Yeah. It's funny, BYU just hasn't got the respect nationally for their, and this is a interesting year, Sean, because it does feel like with conference realignment and all these teams in these conferences, you have a lot of these conferences, you just don't play a lot of great teams. There's a lot of schedules like that are set up like that, and they did win their big game against Kansas State, obviously, and that was a weird game, right? They scored like 31 of their points in 5 minutes, basically. But people just don't respect BYU still, so that's why I think that number is still 4.5, because people respect Utah and don't think BYU is as good as the record indicates.
So the schedule for BYU, as I think most people around here know, Rice Eccles Stadium, 8:15, rivalry game on ESPN. And then it's Kansas, who's been a big disappointment this year. It's Arizona State, who is dangerous as long as Cam Scatterbo's healthy, and that's
it's questionable.
That's a road game. And then you got Houston, and who knows what the hell Houston is, because they galvanized themselves, found a way to beat Utah, and then they looked decent again this past weekend when they upset, what was it, Kansas State?
K-State, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, all right, it's not the scariest schedule for BYU, but you look at that and you say, worst case scenario, you're 2-2 down the stretch, and that puts you in a Big 12 championship game most likely.
Yeah, it does. Playing Colorado, by the way, which feels increasingly more likely, which is just never would have thought that that was the case.
Can I say this though? We began the summer with this show. We started this show July 7th. And I probably didn't make it past July 9th before I said Travis Hunter needs to be talked about as a Heisman Trophy winner this year, because he's the best player in college football. Now, he's not the best quarterback in college football, which hurts him, and he's playing on the same team as one of the best quarterbacks in college football, which also hurts him. But right now, last time I checked at least, Travis Hunter was right up there at the top with Cam Ward as the Heisman Trophy favorite. And it's the only thing I've been right about this entire year, Jeff.
I have a Travis Hunter to win the Heisman at plus $3,500. Plus 3,500 tickets, so 35-1. If they go 10-2, he's got a chance. If they lose one more game, I don't think so. But if he goes 10-2 and Cam Ward loses a game, which Miami's defense can always give that away, it's just going to be hard to overcome a 12-0 quarterback of Miami, who throws for 4,000 yards and has some really wild plays. And obviously Genty they play like 4 schmoes on the way in. He's going to get a bunch of yards, even though he's a little beat up. And I think that it's Hunter or Cam Ward right now. And Genty might be the best player, but there's unfortunately a G5 bias. It's what it is. And if Christian McCaffrey is not winning the Heisman out of Stanford, I don't think Ansa Genty's winning out of Boise.
Jeff Schwartz, my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. All right, so focusing in on this rivalry game, I'm super high over the moon about the idea that these are conference opponents again. It's not a great year for Utah. It is a great year for BYU. We'll see how it plays out. But when I zoom out and think about what it means to have this game back and be played every year, I'm crazy excited about it. I don't know if everyone feels that way. There were a lot of Utah fans who seemed to experience kind of fatigue on this whole thing, especially when they were in the Pac-12, and really the only risk was for them, and it was all reward for BYU. But, of course, you were dominant during those years, and you lost the last one if you're Utah, and now you're staring down the face of potentially losing it again. Rivalry games, to me, Jeff, are not loved enough anymore because of the business matters of college football and because of conference realignment and things like this. And I just, from your perspective, because I fully acknowledge I might be blinded by the fact that I grew up on this rivalry. Is this a game that college football needs?
Yeah, I think we always need rivalry games, Sean. And obviously, if both teams were at the 9-0 essentially, it would be incredible. We saw last season Washington, Oregon for the first time in that rivalry history. I think both teams were in the top 10 at the same time, and you saw the attention that rivalry got from the rest of the country. And the rest of the country will always watch good football teams play rivalry games. Now, this is super late, which kind of stinks I think it's probably great for Rice Eccles and the fans of Utah to sort of have a night game under the lights like this. Not great for the rest of the country, right? I mean, look, Oregon plays at 7 on Saturday. I will probably be sleeping by the end of the first quarter in your game, Sean. Like, that's the bummer of it, right? It's just at a bad time. But people watch rivalry games because you never know what's going to happen. How many times have we seen rivalry games where, again, like, you don't expect the underdog to win and they pull one out? I mean, it would be very college football for Utah to get this win. And so conference realignment has been helpful for the rivalries, right? Keeping those alive. But I'll tell you what, man, I think I mentioned this last week. Like, it just feels so unfulfilling beating random Big Ten teams every weekend.
You talked about that, yeah.
And I think like that's the only drawback to this. Obviously, when you play USC or UCLA, or when you guys play when you play Boise. I mean, not Boise. When you play a BYU, I'm sure that it feels great to play your rival. But I mean, is it really fulfilling to play Houston? Do you feel like that's like, oh wow, we're playing Houston this week?
Especially.
Well, of course not. But you know my point. Like, it's just sort of like, oh, it's Houston. But the rivalries, you have to keep them alive. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this? So keeping the rivalry alive, I think, is huge. And I think that every rivalry should play every year. I hope the Civil War stays together. I hope the Apple Cup stays together in the Pacific Northwest. Holy War should be played every year.
And it looks like it will be moving forward. Brett Yormark and the Big 12 Conference have talked about, hey, this is one of those games that we should make sure is featured. There's arguments for and against having it on traditional rivalry weekend. The argument to play it on November 9th is this is more of a spotlight game now. But you told us that all off season long, hey, we're putting this on November 9th so that the nation will pay attention to it. And then you put it at 8:15 Mountain, which means that half the country is not watching.
And then you have to play a 10 Mountain kickoff in Colorado, which is insane. I don't understand that. That feels unfair to both teams.
Well, it is what it is. And that brings me to the real question, I think, for Utah fans. And it's something I probably have been harsh and saying that, look, your season is this game against BYU. If you come out and you lay an egg offensively like you have the last 4 games, if it doesn't look like the progress has been made in the bye week, if it doesn't look like you found any answers, I don't think they're winning against Colorado. I think the morale is dead. I think the locker room is lost. I think the roster is starting to look for transfer portal opportunities. And I hate that that's the reality. I don't want to be sitting here on the Home of the Utes saying something like that. But we are, in my opinion, Jeff, 4 days now from like the real deciding point for this Utah football program.
I agree because of the bye, I feel like, right? When you have 2 weeks to prepare, Sean, and so does BYU, so it's not like they're on the same boat as you guys, and you have sort of offensive issues, like this is your time to spend 2 weeks figuring them out and coming up with plays and whatnot. Now, I could see certainly a faster start, and then as the game sort of comes off that first script of opening plays, then that's where the real offense sort of starts, Sean. So there could be a fast start for Utah and then sort of a hold on and try to finish this game out. But yeah, I mean, you're 4-4, right? I have that right. So you're 4-4, and you're still playing for a bowl. They're still playing for pride in the Holy War. And the thing about Colorado is they score, man. Like, you have to keep up with Colorado. You have to be able to hit Colorado and force Shedeur into errors, and you have to sort of play a precision game against them. And if you're not up to it 100% emotionally, they'll just run by you, man. Like, they have better players than a lot of teams they play.
So a big thing, if you're looking for reasons why it's all gone south for Utah, now people are reading in more, and they're saying, all right, what happened with this whole, Cam Rising thing and the communication and the locker room start to be fractured here. But you can boil a lot of these struggles over the last 2 seasons now down to injury. And I love the strength and conditioning staff at the University of Utah. The same guys that were there from 20 years ago when I was up there. Like, they've done an incredible job of making this team, what it is, and allowing this team to have the reputation that it has. And maybe it's not the strength and conditioning staff. Maybe it's the training room. Maybe it's not either of those. Maybe it's nutrition. Maybe it's not that either. Injuries are part of the game that we all love, but you played it longer than most. Is there anything from not an individual perspective, but from like a team, a system standpoint that you think Utah needs to be looking at now that it's back-to-back seasons where, you've been decimated by injuries?
Well, there's two types of injuries, Sean, right? There's the game day injuries, right? And sort of the practice injuries, and then sort of just like the muscle pulls. So, right, like a muscle pull to me feels very much a training injury, right? Like you've not trained properly and eaten properly and gotten your body ready to play football, right? Of course, there are obviously not always and never, but, pulled hamstring to me sounds like something that you can train out of your body, right? Broken legs, broken bones, messed up fingers, like that's just a game day thing. That's just bad luck, right? Now, of course, I think that, there are ways to strengthen your knee with stronger quads and stronger hip flexors and hamstrings and things like that to maybe prevent knee injuries upon contact, right? But I can't sit here and tell you, whether or not Utah's doing that well enough or not. But if it's sort of the freak injury, the broken bones and cam rising, like that's just sort of bad luck, in my opinion, Sean. If it's more the training stuff, right, the hamstrings, the quads, other pulled muscles, that comes back to me to nutrition and strength training. But I don't think that's Utah's problem. To me, I don't. When I watch them play, I don't think that they're not, ready to play physically. It's just sort of really, really bad luck. And I imagine Kyle Whittingham's going to have to explore that this offseason, right? What do we do to do things differently? We've talked about this a little bit, and I don't know how much it's happening or the data shows it, but everyone's practicing less now, and I think that you got to hit in practice. You have to feel what that load on your body feels like, and you got to do it. Yeah, guys might get hurt. That's part of practice, but these teams that have physical practices, right? I mean, how many guys a year is Georgia getting hurt, Sean? Not many, right? How many, the Chiefs super physical practices. This year's a freak year, right? Rasheed Rice gets hurt, Hollywood Brown gets hurt in the game. Like you have that, but the Chiefs also rarely, Sean.
Those guys play a position they're not getting hit anyway.
Correct.
Right?
So, but like the Chiefs rarely have pulled hamstrings. Like they rarely have any sort of training injury, and to be fair, they don't have really any injuries for the most part in the trenches either. They, again, they hit a lot in practice. Like I think that matters, man, and a lot of teams just don't hit as much anymore and get their bodies prepared to play football.
Jeff Schwartz for another couple minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show. We'll switch to a little NFL discussion. The trade deadline, we saw Marshawn Lattimore, I think, is the best player I've seen moved. He's headed to the Commanders for some picks. Are the Saints just kind of shutting it down? They fired Dennis Allen, so they're just like, all right, we're going to suck this year, and let's see what we can do in the draft.
Yeah. I mean, the problem with them, Sean, is their cap space. They're like $60 million over for next season and have no real flexibility, right?
No.
Because the Derek Carr thing is Derek Carr in NFL history through 11 seasons. The two quarterbacks with the most losses are Derek Carr and Archie Manning. Funny enough, both Saints quarterbacks. So now Archie was with the Aints. It's not this bad. This year you could argue that. Yeah, the trade deadline is dude. The NFL now, you have younger GMs, younger head coaches, like they go for it now. They used to never trade anyone at the trade deadline. Now, the Ravens just traded for someone a couple minutes ago. You mentioned the Lattimore deal. The Steelers traded for a pass rusher. I mean, it's been everyone is trading for everyone. And I love it, man. I love that the NFL and these teams are sort of going for it. The Lions went for it with Zadarius Smith. I absolutely love this NFL now.
Did anyone, at least that you've seen any of these trades, did it change an outlook for a team? Is there anyone that you're like, now that's an important enough player that they might make it further into the playoffs, or they might make the playoffs what previously they would have missed?
So I think the Darius Smith trade is huge for the Lions, who lost Aiden Hutchinson. Right, that makes a lot of sense. And we've seen not today, but DeAndre Hopkins made a big difference in Chiefs offense. But that's a big one for them. And Amari Cooper was hurt this week, but Amari Cooper, I think, will make a big difference for the Bills as well.
Should I feel optimistic with the reports that Christian McCaffrey is trending toward playing?
Yeah, I just don't like, you know how we've talked about this for a year. I don't like the Achilles injuries. I don't think that they go away until they have to be fixed. So I really hope I'm not obviously not rooting for that, but I really hope that he can he can do it. He can come back. He's on my fantasy team. Selfishly, I'm 2-7 right now. I need McCaffrey back. I was 0-7 to start the year. I won last 2 weeks.
Wow.
It's pretty hard to be 0-7.
I did not. I've been playing underdog fantasy, like the daily fantasy stuff. I did not play a season fantasy league.
You do that?
Yeah, it's awesome. So much fun.
I worked with you for 6 years and didn't talk about gambling once. Then I leave you, and all of a sudden you start gambling again, or for the first time.
Well,
it's not gambling technically.
It's because of your influence.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm glad I influenced you that way.
Led me to a place where I'm, dropping $5 here and there and losing most of it. But
good for you. I'm proud of you. Is it going well? You like it?
Yeah, I love it. It's a lot of fun. It keeps you engaged. Well, my problem is I'll make like do a little stack a few picks on top of each other for like a fight card, and I'll hit on those, and I'll start getting cocky. I'll go like 4 out of 5 on a college football weekend, start getting cocky, and then I'll just be like, ha, watch me now. I'm a hockey fan, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make these predictions on the Utah Hockey Club, and then it's just like, you idiot, you don't know anything about hockey.
Yeah, I know. I put the Utah Hockey Club in a parlay last week for Sports Equinox. They lost. They were up 3 goals in the third period and lost in overtime.
You did on the Sharks game? Oh no.
Yes.
Oh no.
Yes.
That was terrible.
Yeah. So now I almost bought a shirt. I had the shirt in my Fanatics cart, the Utah Hockey Club shirt, and they lost. I just deleted it from the cart. I was all ready to go.
When you come out here in December, we'll find
I moved my flight December 20th, buddy. I'll be at December 20th.
Hey, I love it.
We can watch Oregon in the College Bowl playoff in those couple of days too.
Yay. That'll be good for you.
I'm excited. Are you gonna come see me? You gonna hang out with me?
Yeah, because
we're in Deer Valley, I think.
Yeah.
Park City somewhere. I don't know.
We'll
wives
find
will
some
talk.
time. We'll find time. We won't make our vacation plans on the air because you have a lot of fans out here. I don't want people showing up where you.
I'm sure I have a lot in Utah. Me in the. I mean, look, if I do go to the Red Iguana, I'm gonna probably be a celebrity. But otherwise, I'm sure I have a lot of fans in Utah.
Well, you're not gonna blend in all that well, especially if you're up in the mountains. People are like, Sasquatch. No, it's just Jeff. All right.
The Yeti.
It's
Yeti.
Hey, the Utah Yeti. You could be the guy.
I'll be their mascot.
Perfect. Just you in a sweater. Or I guess it could be you shirtless because
me shirtless. Yeah, there we go.
All right, I know I got to let you go. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Talk to you later, bud. Bye.
Jeff Schwartz, college football and NFL insider, former Oregon Duck, longtime offensive lineman in the league, and a guy who Jeff is so good at removing emotion from how he predicts games. It's like aggravating. Even with his Ducks, his own alma mater, he'll remove the emotion from it. Even with the NFL teams that he played for, he'll remove the emotion from it. And then, of course, this year, he doesn't have to remove the emotion from it because the Ducks are the best team in the country and the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. So there it is. Big thanks to Jeff Schwartz. You know what we got to do when Jeff, because he's coming in, I think, over Christmas. Here's what we got to do.
What do we got to do?
Jeff Schwartz driving around in an Ineos Grenadier. That is he is the kind of guy who looks like he belongs in one of these like big muscly SUVs. And that's exactly what an Ineos Grenadier is. They're out at the Warner dealership, 2400 South, 5600 West in West Valley. It's out at the Van Center. If you're familiar with the Warner Van Center, same lot, same spot, okay? They've got the full lineup of the Ineos Grenadiers. They've got every color you could imagine. They've got all the interior options, all the exterior options. And this thing, especially now that the snow is falling, I'm telling you, you're going to want full-time four-wheel drive. You're going to want available locking differentials. You're going to want a vehicle that operates just fine on the freeways and on the side streets when it's a beautiful day, but also gets you home safely even when the roads are slippery or even if you're out there camping or you're hauling something in the mountains. Ineos Grenadier. And it does all that while also delivering massive style points. It's a beautiful vehicle. Just Google it. Just look it up. Or go to WarnerIneosGrenadier.com and tell them that OC sent you. All right, back into this conversation about Utah and BYU. Are we headed toward Ute-mageddon, or does the season turn around against BYU? Let's talk about it next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700.
Shelley in the gun. Covey and Green next to it. Jason gives it to... No, he keeps it. Jason Shelley to the 5. To the corner of the end zone. Touchdown! Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Jason Shelley has put the dagger in the Cougars! Shelley's done it! Shelley has beat BYU! The freshman from Frisco has done it!
Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. How about that little throwback audio? Utah BYU highlight courtesy of ESPN 700. That's us at the Utah Sports Radio Network. Always good to hear the enthusiastic calls of Bill Riley. Hasn't had as much of an opportunity to do that this year, but the hope is, if you're an optimistic Utah fan, that this bye week proved to be constructive. People are split right down the middle, and we're actually going to put a poll question out about who that you expect the starting quarterback to be, but the anecdotal conversations I'm having, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of people who are like, don't really know. I did put a poll question out also about kind of a would you rather. What would you rather have as a Utah football fan? If you had to pick one of these two finishes for Utah football, do you choose 3-1, but you lose to BYU, so you still make a bowl game, you have a respectable enough 7-5 season, or 1-3, but you beat your rival? You miss a bowl game. In a season you were supposed to win the Big 12 championship, you were supposed to be a college football playoff team, you don't even make a bowl game. That would be well short of expectations, but you're already there. So winning the rivalry game, which, by the way, the added element here is that it makes BYU's life more difficult in achieving the goals that you had set out for yourself that are still very realistic for them. So right now, 65% of the votes coming in on you'd rather have a losing record on the season as long as you beat BYU. And it's not the place where Utah football wants to be, but this is, I think, is the appropriate fan response. This is the right way for fans to feel, in my mind. And I know that it's the policy of the station, hey, we don't tell people how to fan. I kind of do sometimes because I'm terrible. I'm the worst. And there's just some things that as a fan make more sense to me. If your season is already lost relative to what you hoped it would be, then beating your rival and being a thorn in the side of your neighbors for the next year is a lot more fun than playing against whoever in a bowl game.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like same with Colorado fans too. They're pretty much mountain rivals, conference rivals.
Are they though?
I would consider it a rival.
The Pac-12 tried to sell us on that. They tried to make it like that Rocky Mountain rivalry, the time zone, the travel partners, the things like that. Really only 1 year did the Colorado Buffaloes and Utah Utes have an unexpected result. Only 1 year did, or maybe it was 2 years in the Pac-12 conference, where it's just like Utah had something to play for and Colorado ruined it for them, or vice versa. It just, the Colorado was in such a bad place as a program then. And look, Jeff Schwartz and I have talked about this on a couple of shows. It really is fascinating to me how the conversation about Colorado has died down now that they're good. Why?
I don't know. I think Colorado's more on the hype of Dion coming to coach last year.
Yeah, but it's like, Dan Lanning, the Oregon coach, when they were still in the same conference, he made a point of being like, hey, Colorado's all about flash, and it's not real what they're doing over here. What we are doing is real, so pay attention to this.
Yep.
And this year, Colorado is real.
Yeah, 100%.
Colorado's a solid team. Colorado has a better pass rush than BYU does right now. They have a better pass rush than Utah does right now. They have a better pass rush than Iowa State does right now. They've got a better pass rush, wildly, than almost every team in the Big 12 conference right now. And I know that's not like the smash mouth, hey, we're tougher than you, we stop the run every down type of situation, but it's a departure from the narrative that we have established that like they can only do the flashy stuff at Colorado. They can only do the stuff that's finesse, right?
Yep.
Like They're decently physical. They can't run the ball, but they don't really choose to.
Nope.
And they're protecting Shedeur Sanders a lot better this year. And he is a really good quarterback who's got great wide receivers. Not good, great wide receivers at his disposal, and that's why Colorado is where they're at. And the defense is playing pretty dang well. So, I mean, relative to what you saw last year from Colorado, when everyone refused to shut up about the Buffaloes,
I agree.
and they were like a 4-win team, people were just like, oh my gosh, we love these guys. Okay, but it gave us all fatigue. It gave us all like this, dude, why are you talking about a team that's not even good? And it made a lot of people stop paying attention to a team that in 2024 is actually good. And maybe that's why this whole BYU thing is happening.
Right. Well, I remember last year, too, it's like Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, and all these guys were just flexing watches. Week 3, I think it was last year.
Well, that still is the most insufferable, stupid thing.
I agree. That's like that kid that filmed Jason Kelsey.
Shedeur Sanders is unlikable. Travis Hunter is very likable.
Oh, yeah.
Shedeur Sanders is very unlikable as a quarterback. Shedeur Sanders, and his dad's to blame for this in a lot of ways. And I've said this on the show before. Like, everyone has blind spots for their kids, and Deion clearly does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, his kids are so talented. They're so good at what they're supposed to do on a football field that I think Deion has done less in their young adulthood of, like, teaching them, hey, you know, like, don't be this guy. Because also he can't. Because it's do what I say, not, or do what I do, not what I say. And Deion was a flashy guy. Now, Deion has a lot of substance to him, in my opinion, that I guess we'll find out if Shedeur is this way. I feel like Travis Hunter's this way. We've had an opportunity to talk to him at length a couple of times at Big 12 Media Days, and then weirdly he showed up at a PFL fight one time, which was really odd. But you know, he's a really interesting individual that came from humble beginnings, and that's not Shedeur.
No,
like Shedeur is the hardest player to like in America, in my opinion. But he's dang good. You have to acknowledge it.
I think he's going to be like a top 10 draft pick this year, probably.
He could be the number 1 overall draft pick.
That depends who gets the pick, though, I feel like.
Yes, but he's in the conversation.
Yeah.
For being, I mean, and it's going to be like him or 3 other guys that are in that conversation. So Colorado's a weird case right now. But Colorado is not playing a passionate in-state rivalry game on Saturday night. And Colorado is not in a situation where if they lose this weekend, the Buffs are now stripping it down to the studs, so to speak, and the hard conversations need to happen about what went wrong. Like, Colorado can lose 2 more games this year, and folks are still going to be like, oh, well, they're better than they were last year. Utah football is in the opposite scenario. 1 more loss, especially this weekend for Utah football, is going to be greeted by me, I'm not saying it's the wrong way, by a lot of people, and I count me among them, as an indication that what we thought we knew about this program and how sort of insulated it was from the changes in college football, we were just dead wrong. And it's going to be tested even more because if you lose against BYU and that trashes the rest of your season, now those changes in college football that you've been able to kind of stave off and you haven't lost as many guys into the transfer portal as everyone else has, how do you stop that flood? I don't think you can.
I don't think you can either.
Kyle Whittingham said, because somebody brought this up at the media availability and said, hey, like you haven't been as affected by the transfer portal. He said, hey, we have 45 new guys this year. And that he admitted how difficult it was to maintain a culture and an identity when, and you know, we'll pull up the sound and maybe play it for you tomorrow. But Coach Witt explained it as like, it used to be you had whatever it was, 75 guys teaching the 25 new guys how to be part of this program. And now it's almost flipped, where there's only like 25 guys who really know, and they've got to try and teach everyone else.
Yeah, and I think part of that was people transferring out too. Like we saw JaQuinton Jackson transfer to Arkansas this last year after the season.
Which, look, people got big mad about that, but you can't be mad.
No.
Because you got to let these players do what's right for themselves. And Utah's been more of a beneficiary of the transfer portal than they've been someone hurt by the transfer portal. So until that flips, you don't really have business being mad about stuff like that.
Yeah, and look at Micah Bernard now. He's having one of his best seasons since joining Utah.
Yeah, Mekhi Bernard is having his best year. He's unequivocally having his best year as a Ute, and it's the right time to do it. He's been one of the lone bright spots on this team. He is going to have to be a massive part of the fix if a fix is to be found against BYU. And I started the show with an analogy that would have been a lot better if my producer today was not 17 years old. It's not your fault that you're so young.
Not.
I'm proud of you for having your entire future ahead of you. That's wonderful. But like I called it Ute-mageddon, like the Armageddon movie, right? There's this big asteroid hurtling towards Earth, and you have to find some crew that's going to go up there and blow up the asteroid. And who's going to be Bruce Willis? Who's going to be Ben Affleck? Who's going to be what was the big guy from the Green Mile? Michael Clark Duncan. That's his name, right? Like who's going to be that crew that eliminates the threat? Are they on the Utah football roster? I mean, there's people talking the talk right now. Jalen Glover had to apologize for the harsh language he used about BYU yesterday, which, again, don't apologize. It's fine.
It's rivalry.
You can say bad words about your rival. At least in my opinion, you can. It's not a big deal. But somebody didn't like that. Somebody told him, hey, go issue an apology for that. So he did. But there's a huge difference between talking like you know what this rivalry is about and playing like you know what this rivalry is about. And more importantly, practicing like you know what this rivalry is about so that you can play on Saturday night that way.
Right.
You're running out of time to figure it out.
You are.
And you have to fix those problems in practice so that in the game, what you're doing is you're going out and you're putting what you practiced on the field. Now, BYU has the system figured out this year. Do I think that BYU is going to finish the year undefeated? I do not. I think that they stubbed their toe somewhere. That's just what college football is this year.
Yep.
There's like 5 undefeated teams left in the country. It's like Army, Miami, Oregon, BYU, Indiana. I don't know who else, but those are the top 25 teams. And I don't think any of them. I'm not convinced any of them is going to finish the year undefeated. There's a lot of parity right now, and that's true in the Big 12. Even though BYU's schedule is favorable the rest of the way, but right now, the communication, the culture, the chemistry of that BYU football program is where it needs to be at face value. Like you can look at it and you can see it. They're playing hard. They're celebrating with one another. Everything's going well, so there's no reason to point fingers. This coaching staff, a lot of them former Utes in some capacity or another, know exactly what this rivalry is about. They have more local guys on the team this year than Utah does.
Yep.
Those guys know more about what this rivalry is about. For Utah, you have to try to get right in a game against the best opponent you face this year while also trying to convey to a bunch of folks who don't necessarily know what this rivalry is about how important it truly is, not just for this year, but on the landscape of college football. The preservation of rivalries is so critically important to what we associate with college football, the romanticism we all feel about college football, the love and affection we feel for Saturdays, for Thursday nights, for the playoff system that is altered this year but is still going to be so much fun to watch. Rivalry games are what separate college football from the NFL. And this one is one of like 10 that is surviving that has any real history to it.
Yeah, definitely.
There just aren't that many left.
Yeah, I mean, there's like, what else can you name? Ohio State, Michigan.
Well, Ohio State, Michigan is always going to be there.
Yep.
Right? They're never going to separate. Texas, Oklahoma, they're never going to separate. That's always going to be there.
BYU, Utah, always going to be there.
I think USC, Notre Dame is going to stay, but we'll see what conference realignment does to that.
I think it should.
I think it should, and that's a great one. Although that one doesn't – those schools are not 50 miles apart.
No.
Those schools
they're like
on opposite sides of the country. They're 2 time zones apart. You know what I mean? At like the Civil War game in Oregon is right now being preserved, but they're no longer conference opponents. And And Oregon State has been effectively relegated to being a group of 5 team, even in a reorganized Pac-12.
Yep.
So how long does that thing last? Same thing is true with the Apple Cup. So, look, you got like your backyard brawls that have gone away and come back. You got the Territory Cup. You've got there are some good ones, but none that have I won't say none. Not many that have lasted over 100 years. Not many that have no other ones that, to my knowledge, that have a religious element to them. This is one of the best rivalry games in the country. And guess what? I'm going to tell you the same thing tomorrow, and the same thing on Thursday, and the same thing on Friday, and the same thing on Saturday. And it is of critical importance to Utah that they look good in this game. Ute-mageddon, can it be prevented? Who flies up to the asteroid, plants the nuke, and blows it apart? My pick for that is the Utah offensive line. It has to be them. They're the ones who have to be the weapon deployed against the onrushing doom that is BYU. If Utah's offensive line has a bad game, doesn't matter who the quarterback is. If Utah's offensive line doesn't open up holes and establish the running game, doesn't matter whether it's Isaac Wilson or Brandon Rose or somehow by some miracle it's Cam Rising again. The offensive line is the whole key. They're the nuclear bomb that you can plant in this asteroid. If they don't do it, we'll find out before halftime probably.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I just looked it up. The first matchup between Utah and BYU, 1896.
I'm glad you brought that up because only Utah says that.
Mm-hmm.
According to BYU, the first matchup in this rivalry game happened in 1922.
What?
Yeah.
Hey, that's still 100 years old, though.
They can't even agree on when the first game was played. That's why it's a great rivalry. All right, we got to take a break. The Drive with Spence Checketts is coming in like 6 minutes. I have some trivia to close out the show. That's next on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700. Holidays are coming. Time to do a little shopping for your loved ones, for the luxury aficionado in your life. Breitling has a new watch, the Endurance Pro watch. It's beautiful. It's incredible. They've got the Super Ocean Series, the Professional Series, the Premier Series, and now these Endurance Pros. O.C. Tanner Jewelers right here in downtown Salt Lake City has the full lineup of Breitling. They're proud partners of both ESPN 700 and Utah football. It's the ultimate choice for those who value quality and craftsmanship. If you're wanting to look at the whole Breitling collection, go to octannerjewelers.com. All right. I have some trivia for you here. We're going to give away, let's do Lemon Shark Poke gift cards and Farmer and Chemist gift card. All right, Zach, this is for you. 877-353-0700. According to Utah, when was the first Holy War played? What year was the first Holy War played according to the University of Utah's official record? There is a dispute. Brigham Young University doesn't agree on the first meeting. 877-353-0700 if you know the answer. Big thanks to everyone who joined us on the show today. We'll continue the rivalry talk tomorrow. We also have a conversation with Kyle Whittingham coming. That'll be at 11:30 a.m. right here on the Sean O'Connell Show tomorrow. The drive with Spence Checketts. Spence is at ARUP for the Red and Blue Blood Drive. 9765 South Sandy Parkway. Ute fans, head out there and donate. It's your first chance to beat BYU. You want more pints of blood coming from Utah fans than from BYU fans. More red blood than blue blood. Red and Blue Blood Drive happening at ARUP 9765 South on the Sandy Parkway. Stay tuned for the drive with Spence Checketts. That's the Sean O'Connell Show for today. Talk to you tomorrow on ESPN 700.